Well, I'm joined now by Dana White. Dana, I've got to say that when my three sons, who are all mad UFC fans, when they heard I was interviewing you, I don't think I've ever heard them either more excited about a guest.
This is Mongolian Mindset, and today we're going to be typing UFC President Dana White. We'll be using Linda Barrens Interaction styles combined with cognitive function. Highly recommend you pick that up. Let's see what the monkeys over at Personality Database, the brain dead monkeys over at HaveMass. They have Dana White as the ENTJ. Okay, so ENTJs. That's my personality type. So the direct, the outcome, the TFI, the SENI, systematic, abstract, and initiating. If he meets those measures, we'll call him ENTJ. If he's not, we'll find his actual personality type. Okay. We have our metrics here, and once he hits 5 of each of the ones, we'll go ahead and start taking those off the board. Guys, we're still doing the free typing sessions by us. Get that while it lasts. All you have to do is subscribe to the channel, join our Facebook or Discord, and message our moderator Cody, and he'll get back to you with availability on that. I do think it's only a matter of time before we are the best at this. If we're not the best now, I think we have the best system by far, by doing a multitude of people doing it and looking at them and comparing and contrasting and talking our way and explaining our points. We do that behind the scenes. Would it be me or Shelly, or me, Thomas, and Shelly? So we take our time to make sure we get your fucking type right. And even if I suspect some shit's off, man, I just routinely just watch videos. And if I even see some shit off, I will pull you back in here and we will get that typing right. You see, as we did Andronique 2 years ago, we typed the ISFJ. That's when we were first starting typing. I pulled her ass in here two years later, and I'm like, yo, you're an ENTP. I got to get you back in here to make sure I'm right. She was a fucking ENTP. But hey, we evolve as we grow. So let's get into this, though. Comment below what you think Dana White type is.
Or prouder of their father. So for that alone, thank you.
Well, thank you. And tell them thanks for the support.
I took them all to the big McGregor-Mayweather fight down in Vegas, which presumably lined your pockets in the process. And it wasn't probably a perfect example of what you're about, really. It was an incredible theatre. It involved two supreme champion fighters, albeit in different disciplines. And I found it a riveting thing to watch, albeit it ended how I suspected it was always going to end. But that, to me, in a nutshell, was you all over. Vegas, high drama, high theatre, specialist pugilists at their very best, and a kind of unique encounter.
Yeah, what we try to do is try to give the best experience that we can for fans.
What we do is we try to get the best experience. So that's going to be SE, and SE is attached to NI, best experience. Okay.
Either live or on television. It's the thing that I focus on the most. When you
thing I focus on the most, that's NI focus.
Come to a live UFC event or an event that we're putting on, most people don't walk out and say, yeah, I don't ever want to see one of these again.
Okay, so he's talking about the outcome there, and he's talking about what other people are doing. Let's SE some more. Let's keep going.
I mean, my sons, as I say, they got me in.
Quite happy about that.
To it, and I quickly became gripped. I loved it. In fact, I sat next to Beebe at an Arsenal match recently, and we had a long chat. And he was unbeaten and an absolute titan of the sport, but he was fascinating about it all and about you. May come to a bit of that later.
Okay, for the people that SENI outcome direct, he's coming off direct. That means if I wanted to be soft typing him right now, we're down to ESTP, ENTJ, ENFJ. Just off that alone, and I'm looking at this guy and I'm seeing ENTJ.
But I've certainly become a great convert to it as a sporting spectacle. I think there's very little stuff like it. The thing that is intriguing about you to me is where you came from to get to where you've got to. When you look back at your journey, you were born in 1969 to a 19-year-old high school dropout mum. You had a 21-year-old alcoholic father who left the home, I think, when you were 7 or 8 years old. You worked your way through some pretty tough early years, had no silver spoon, no great privilege, and yet here you are.
All right, Piers Morgan with all these outcomes.
Are now sitting here talking to me from this gym, and you've got a multi-billion-dollar business that's made you both extremely
more outcomes from Piers Morgan.
rich, very successful, but I'd imagine also for you yourself, That journey must be incredibly satisfying.
Yeah, it's been amazing actually. You know, as I look back on my life and you know where I started and where I am today, it's been amazing. But I love it so much that, you know, I'm 54. I just turned 54 years old in July, and you know, I feel like I haven't even scratched the surface of what's left to do in this business and in this sport. But it's definitely been an incredible journey.
So he's going in out there. He didn't scratch the surface. It's abstract. What he's gonna do, future focus.
You were a road paver, a bouncer, a hotel bellman, and an apprentice boxing trainer. You've done a few things in your time. When you were doing those things, did you have a big dream?
Yeah, well, I think when you're young, those are all the type of jobs you have to do. Number one, to find out what hard work really is, and number two, to find out what it is you don't want to do in life. So
you do find out what you don't want to do. And outcome. So let's go ahead and hit him for SENI. Okay, guys, he's an SENI user, and this guy is very direct. He's using closed statements. He's very specific, concise, and to the point. So with that being said, we're looking at a STP, intj, or enfj, just based off those two metrics alone.
I was very lucky that I had all those experiences, and by the age of 19, I figured out didn't want to do any of that, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do.
I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and
I wanted to be in the fight business, which at the time, you know, was 1988 or 1989. Sounded like the dumbest idea ever. But when you love something and you're very passionate about it, you know, and you know exactly what it is you want to do, you just get up every day.
You know exactly what it is what you want to do, and
and start grinding until it happens.
You start grinding. You see, he didn't go through no progression there. He just jumped straight to the end product. You just keep grinding, take these achievable results until you get there.
From an Irish Catholic background, as I do, and you were taught by nuns when you were younger, as I was. I had spiritual guidance from nuns. How did that impact you?
I don't know. Went to Catholic school and had to go to church and all that stuff growing up. I was an altar boy when I was younger. I don't know if that affected me in a positive way toward religion, but
Talking about the outcome there, affect him to the positive.
I'm not a very religious person these days. I would say it's weird because there's some things that I don't believe in much, but I believe in karma for some reason. I never really was guided by religion in any way, shape, or form as I got into my 20s.
What do you think happens to you when you die?
I think that it's it. It's over. I think that we think we're more important than we really are, because some people have to believe that to get through life.
Talking about what people think and have to believe, that's attached to TEFI.
I'm not one of those people that has to believe that. Listen, maybe there is, maybe there isn't. I'd say the real answer for me is I don't know, but I don't let that guide me, and I don't let it, just be a good person. You can figure out being a good person without having to believe in anything.
Okay, so basically, I don't need an ethical structure to be a good person. That's FI. I can just follow my morals myself. I have them.
My opinion.
When you look again at your trajectory to where you've got to, it was a wonderful report that you have $100,000 a year that you spend on sneakers. A, is that true? And B, did you ever think you'd get to a place where you could spend $100,000 a year on sneakers?
No, I actually never really thought about that ever. And I didn't even realize it until we did that complex story and we started talking about how much money I'd spent on sneakers over the last year. But yeah, no, not anything I ever thought of and didn't think about it until it came up in that interview.
That's an SE child coming out there, $100,000 on some sneakers in a year.
Your relationship with your parents, obviously complicated, difficult. I know you don't particularly like talking about that. I don't want to pry into that. Other than to just ask whether it's had a material effect on you as a person. Do you think a lot of the drive that you have comes from those difficulties and those difficult relationships?
You're right, I don't like talking about it, but it's a great question, and I would say yes, absolutely. My relationship with my parents has definitely, made me who I am today in many different ways, not just, in life and in business, but as a father too. So I wouldn't change my upbringing, not one thing about it. I wouldn't change any of it. So, yeah, great question, and I agree with you.
Has it made you a better father yourself, do you think, a better parent?
100%. 100%. My parents taught me a lot about what I didn't want to be as a parent, and
noticing what they did and what I don't want,
yeah. And I don't really talk about, I don't think I've ever talked about this, but my parents both died recently. So,
I didn't know that.
So he just initiated that. He didn't have to bring that up.
So that's yeah. I don't like talking about it, but yeah, my parents died
I
recently.
think FI is coming out. I have not processed these feelings. I don't want to talk about it.
And
how did that make you feel, given how difficult things have been?
Yeah, see, you never ask an ENTJ that question, okay? You never ask how they feel. Never ask how they feel. Now look at his response.
Holy shit, this is where we're going with this interview, huh?
Pragmatic. Holy shit, this is where we're going with this interview, huh? Yep, you're starting to hit FI inferior there.
I don't, talking about it, but yeah, my parents died recently, and
shutting down.
How did that make you feel, given how difficult things have been?
Ready for the shutdown button.
Holy shit, this is where we're going with this interview, huh? I don't,
Look at that.
I'm good with it. I'm good with everything,
I'm good with it. No, you're not.
I focus a lot on my kids and my relationship with them, and I've sort of put my relationship with my parents behind me.
Colt! I'm calling Colt! Colt!
Did you feel sad when you knew they died, or did you
No.
feel it was the end of a...
No, I didn't wish any ill will on either one of my parents, but no, I didn't. When they passed away, I had almost no feelings about it, to be honest with you.
Ooh, no feelings about it. There you go. Poor guy.
You didn't go to their funerals, either of them?
Yeah, listen, I took care of my father and moved him up to Maine and put him to rest with his family up there, and then my mother, I had nothing to do with any of hers. Her family handled her when she passed away.
I mean, it's an extraordinarily sad part of your life, and obviously I didn't know that your parents had both died recently, and I thank you for sharing that very private information. I appreciate it, but I am curious as to, you acknowledge that the drive that you have, a lot of that may have come from this quite rough time you had, but do you feel a great loss that you didn't have the love of your parents that many other people take for granted?
He'd hit this man with 3 fucking field questions.
Sound like my wife.
See, it's coming out. You sound like my wife. It started to come out. You'd have hit him with 3 of them.
I don't mean to. Well, actually, maybe I do.
His wife probably wants him to open up about his feelings about a lot of shit, but he just puts him down and just keeps on going to the next fucking thing. Trust me, I know all about this.
No, I did not feel that way, and but there's no doubt about it. I cannot deny the fact that the way that I am built and the drive and all the things that I have definitely come from the relationship that I had with my parents. There's no doubt about it. But no, I have no remorse. I don't feel bad about the way that I grew up. I mean it when I say that I wouldn't change one thing about the way that I was brought up, because I truly believe had I not had them for parents, had I not had the upbringing that I did have, that I wouldn't be who I am today.
What are the things?
No, and I wouldn't have these outcomes. So let's go in here for outcome. Okay, so we got an in charge type, but we know.
Dana, what are the things that it taught you not to do as a parent, and what are the things that it taught you to do as a parent?
Yeah, I think that the to-dos is I'm here for my kids. You know, I've been married for almost 30 years. You go through.
I've been married for 30 years. Okay, that's achievement.
You know, a lot of things in a marriage. I mean, I just went through some stuff last New Year's Eve.
And he just initiated. I just went through some stuff.
These things happen. What you don't do is you don't leave. You don't quit. You don't give up.
You don't do this. You don't do this. You don't do this. You don't do this. It's SE.
And you stay. You know, you don't stay together just for your children, but you stay. I made a commitment. 22 years ago, I had my first son, and there's a commitment there to everybody that's involved. And I've stayed in there. I'm always there for my kids, anything that they ever need. My father taught me, what it feels like to not have a father there at the house.
Talking about what it feels like to himself, that's FI, to not have a father there at home. So I got this feeling, so I don't want that feeling to be around. Sympathy.
It's like to not have that person around all the time when you need them. And I would never do that to my kids.
Mm-hmm. You said a great quote. You talked about my legacy to me is when I drop dead and my kids are at my funeral. I want my 3 kids to get up and say he's an awesome dad.
That's a future focused quote by him, and that sounds like what I say.
Is that ultimately, in the end, the real litmus test of success for you? Now, I've seen other people say, actually, if in the end your kids, when they get old enough to make that decision for themselves, if they still want to be around you and they still love you and they still care about you and they would speak at your funeral.
Wait. I said the same shit. I've said this in multiple videos. Let's go back and let's find it. I've said the same shit in multiple fucking videos. This guy is regurgitating Murcer right now. Maybe he read my future book or something. I don't know. Let's go.
Become affiliated for you, like.
That's it. It has to be somewhere towards the end of this video.
I mean, you seem to be balling. I mean, the only thing I could say is, I mean, I think NTJs really struggle with family.
Yes.
They really struggle.
This is my big worry right now. Yeah. Like I've had people tell me, they're like, you should never be a mother, and that's like, oh my gosh. Like, what do I do with that? In my mind, it's like, yeah. That's like, for us, success is easy, but the hardest thing for us is family. Like, how are we going to make sure like we're not too mean or too cold to the kids, and that they feel loved, and they actually want to visit us when they're adults. That's pretty. I remember my brother, when I was a kid, he told me my kids are gonna grow up to hate me, and I'm like, what the fuck? It's like it's pretty sad. But I've had real trouble with that, like with men as well, though, because I think
You see me start to get choked up in FI. The expression of FI is not there. Just like Dana White is fucking just not there. When you start going to FI territory with ENTJs and shit, it's like, boy, they start getting choked up. They start getting uncomfortable. They start moving around, start stuttering.
In positive way about you. That in the end, that's the ultimate litmus test of success, far more than any financial benefits or gains or fights or whatever it may be.
To not have that person around all the time when you need them. And I would never do that to my kids.
You said a great quote. You talked about my legacy to me is when I drop dead and my kids are at my funeral. I want my 3 kids to get up and say he's an awesome dad. Is that ultimately, in the end, the real litmus test of success for you?
This guy's regurgitating me.
I've seen other people say, you know, actually, if in the end your kids, when they get old enough to make that decision for themselves, if they still want to be around you and they still love you and they still care about you and they would speak at your funeral in positive way about you, then in the end, that's the ultimate litmus test of success, far more than any financial benefits or gains or fights or whatever it may be.
Well said. I couldn't have said that better myself. You're absolutely right. You know, everybody's always asking about legacy, your legacy. What you did for a living isn't your legacy. Your legacy is your children and their children and you know, how they feel about you, how they feel about... Listen, we all make mistakes and we all fail in life at many different things. My opinion is the one thing that you can't fail is being a parent. It's the ultimate failure. It's what showed that you really weren't focused on the right things in your life if that's what you failed at.
I'm pretty sure you guys can find some clips up anywhere throughout all of the videos that I have of me saying pretty much the exact fucking same thing. Now that I'm sitting here, I'm thinking there has to be one where I talk to Holden, and me and him were both talking. Me and Holden are both ENTJs, and I was talking about the same thing, basically the system I wanted to create for my kids in the future so they have an advantage over other kids, and how I see pretty much my life as, you know, maybe I won't reach my goals. You know, maybe I won't reach the biggest dreams that I have because I dream so fucking big. But what I will do is I will build a foundation for them. Okay, and I talked about like a banking system. At the end of the day, I'm going to have all my net worth put into a banking system that follows the global index, and that they can borrow money from it. But they have to borrow it back, but they don't have to borrow it at an interest rate, so it's always there for the next generation. I said that same thing in the interview with Holden. I don't even know. I think that was maybe like 60 fucking videos ago. Okay?
When you referenced the incident on New Year's Eve, and obviously it went viral, everyone saw the video footage and so on, you were very contrite after that. But was the hardest thing of that actually having to talk it over with your kids?
100%. I mean, everybody was acting like there needs to be some big apology to the world. No, the apology was to my kids, for me and my wife. Nobody wants to see their dumb, drunk parents slapping each other on TMZ. You know what I mean? Our oldest son didn't talk to us for like 4 days, and you know, and the other kids had to deal with some stuff too. It's embarrassing, and the only apology that needed to be made was to our children, and the only relationships that needed to be handled immediately was between us and our kids, and we did it, we handled it, and we got through it as a family.
What was it like?
We did it, we handled it, we got through it as a family. Outcome, moving on, we got the outcome, moving on, moving on, moving on.
For you, having seen so many fighters get into scrapes and having to deal with the fallout of that, what was it like for you to suddenly be on the receiving end yourself of that kind of attention?
Yeah, it's definitely not fun, but it's something that, you know, as a man, you have to stand up and you have to deal with it and handle your business, take your lumps, and deal with whatever comes with it. And but like I said, the most important part of it is to handle it as a family first. As long as you get your family straight, I could give a shit what everybody else thinks.
Did you worry?
We're going pragmatic mode.
During that whole episode that you may lose everything that you'd fought so hard to build?
Nah. The people that are around me, again, when you're talking about something like this that happens, and you're talking about what everybody else, the whole world is looking at you and saying, the people who know me, know me. And the people the circle that I keep, I've had for, 40 years. So, the people that I cared the most about, I knew it was going to be whatever. Everybody else, I could care less what everybody else thinks.
I want to go back to the start of UFC, because you had a couple of investor friends. They bought the franchise off you for $2 million. You'd come to Vegas, but how you got to Vegas is fascinating, because you were basically chased out of town by the mafia, by Mr. Mulga, who was, of course, a very famous mafia mobster. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it wasn't him. It was some of his guys that worked under him. But yeah, I mean, I was in Boston in the early 90s, and that stuff was real back then. I mean, if you watch any of the movies or any of the documentaries that came out about it, I lived in South Boston, Massachusetts, and that stuff was very real. And at the time, they had felt that I owed them some money that I felt I didn't owe, and I was either going to pay it or I wasn't going to pay it. But right when I left and came back to Vegas, it was like the summer of '95, and then right after that is when all the stuff started to unravel for him, and he basically went on the run after that. And now, I mean, we had a fight in Boston a couple weeks ago. I mean, it's not even the same city. It's completely different. And South Boston is not the same place it was in the 80s and early 90s.
So that moment...
Yeah, so he initiated that shit there. No one need to hear or know about. You had a sport of being in Boston and how it was different now.
When Whitey Bulger's people say, we want $25,000, I think it was, by tomorrow at 1 o'clock, and you know that if you don't give them that money, that's probably the last call you're getting from them. It might be the last call you ever have. What does that feel like?
Yeah, I don't know if that would have actually, and it wasn't $25, it was $25,000, it was $2,500, which might as well have been $25,000.
Keep asking him how he feel, huh? His voice changing and shit.
$5,000 to me back then, but when I go back there now and look at it at that place and at that time.
Better language would have been, what do you think? Okay, what do you think? Ask the ENTJ, what do they think? Never, what do they feel? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Never, what do you feel?
You realize what a scary place that really was at that point in time. But I didn't really feel that way when I was in my early 20s, Yeah, I don't know how that would have played out, but I can tell you this. I got the call, I hung up the phone, picked it back up, and called Delta and got a one-way ticket back to Vegas. And what's funny is everything in life is about timing, It was the time for me to come back to Vegas for all of this stuff to align and to happen. So earlier you and I were just talking about religion and what you believe and what you don't. It's just crazy the way that things work out and how things are kind of meant to be and what will put you on these different paths in life. It's fascinating.
He's getting abstract here. Talking about different paths in life there, aligning, things like that.
You've turned a business that you managed to find two investor friends, to spend $2 million buying the UFC franchise off you. But it was a very basic franchise at the time. One octagon and a few bits and pieces around it. Today, that business is worth $12 billion.
Ooh.
It's made you incredibly rich in the process, obviously. But my simple question is, how? How did you do this?
That's it for the progression.
Yeah, so it's a great question. Yeah, when we originally bought the company for $2 million, we had a few contracts. When I say a few, maybe 8 to 15 contracts, and an old wooden octagon, and those 3 letters UFC. That was it. The former owner had basically stripped all the rights and sold everything off to try to keep the thing alive. But what we did was we came in, we started to acquire some of these rights back from other companies that had bought them. We started to build, the trademark back and the brand. And we had a vision for this thing. We
had a vision. That's it, abstract. Okay. This guy's just listening out.
We were big fight fans, and we believed that if this was done the right way,
we believe TEFI.
This could be the biggest sport in the world.
Okay, so that's a vision, abstract, and that's an outcome.
I always had this philosophy about fighting, that it doesn't matter what color you are, what country you come from, or what language you speak, we're all human beings. Fighting's in our DNA. We get it and we like it. It doesn't have to be explained to anybody. And when you have the right fight in the right place...
You see how he's talking when he's talking about fucking business? Do you see how he's talking versus when he keeps asking him, how do you feel about something? You get a totally different man, okay? He's even going abstract.
It doesn't matter what color you are, what country you come from, or what language you speak. We're all human beings. Fighting's in our DNA. We get it and we like it. It doesn't have to be explained to anybody. And when you have
Pragmatic.
the right fight in the right place at the right time, like you were just talking about earlier with Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather, everybody wants to watch it everywhere, all over the world.
Everybody wants to watch it.
Yeah.
Now we're getting to a place with streaming where that's actually starting to become
Okay, so you initiated that with the streaming.
possible, where
Talking
we
about the possibilities, that's abstract.
can put on a fight out here in America and the whole world can watch it at the same time on the same network. So the ceiling on this thing is what? 8 billion people are in the world. As you
Talking numbers, TE.
continue to grow the sport, this thing can actually become the biggest sport in the world. And we saw that
That's the outcome, biggest sport in the world.
from day one. The
We
question
saw it from day one in our vision.
was, is the timing right? And thank God it was.
Well, there were two politicians who had interesting
All right, we're
takes.
done here. Dana White, ENTJ. Personality database actually got this correct. ENTJs are initiating, okay, abstract, systematic. And we have all these metrics broken down. If you want to watch them, just click on how to find anyone's personality playlist, and you can watch those videos, and you'll be able to see these as well. They're also direct, so they're specific, concise, to the point. They're pragmatic, rebellious, contrarians, independent mindset. I'm not going to ask you. They're just going to do it. Outcome, or you could call it utilitarian, pragmatic. Outcomes, so looking at the end product. Just list the end product. He does not go through practically no progressions whatsoever. Even when asked how did he get the business, but he just get right over it. So SENI, this guy has a vision. He's had a vision since he started the fighting in 1980s, he said, or something like that. And he said everybody else is laughing. Okay, most of the time that's what happens when you're strong and I usually people laugh at you. But then when you turn into a fucking reality, everybody's like, I knew you could do it. I knew you could do it. I just knew you'd do it. If anybody could do it, it was you. Man, shut the fuck up. But TFI as well. So yeah, Dana White's an ENTJ. Personality database actually got that correct. Okay, for Enneagram, I'm gonna go 8. W7. I'm gonna go with the same one as me. I'm not gonna go with the same instincts because I am SXSP. I think Dana White's an SO. XX. Or SOXX, or he might be SXSO, okay? He's one of those two, but those are his metrics, and he flips back. Basically, you oscillate between them, so, he's going to be oscillating between those, as an I oscillate right now between sexual and SP. So, comment below what you thought Dana White's personality type was, and it was interesting to hear him say the same things I said. But this is MongolianMindset, and I'm out.